If you're looking for a new filler game, introductory game, or family game, let's check out fairies floating around mushroom villages in Fairy Ring. In this 2 to 4 player drafting game, you're going to be putting out mushrooms around your village. Then these little fairies, they're going to be floating around all the way around the table, visiting all of the mushroom villages, collecting mana, which is fairy energy, and then turning that mana into points, completing objectives. Let's go check out how the game plays. You'll have a hand of cards. Simultaneously around the table, choose a mushroom to play. Place left or right of the other mushrooms in your village. Then you're going to move your fairy clockwise around the mushroom in the village depending on the number of the card you just played. If you land on an opponent's mushroom, they're going to get the mana. But if you have a matching mushroom, then you're also going to score your mana as well. 20 mana equals 1 point. Now pass your cards to the left, it's drafting. Repeat this over 2 rounds. Most points is the queen fairy of all of the mushroom villages. Lightweight introductory game with drafting and set collection. Look, it sounds perfect as a filler game, sounds perfect for beginners, but this game truly shines for families. The theme really helps that idea, but I think the luck factor also helps that. Now, the luck factor is probably about 75% luck, 25% strategy. Now, that luck keeps the kids engaged, gives them a chance to win, and for kids, that's all they want to do. They want to feel as competitive as the adults. But that strategy also makes the adults think, and I love that. We think a little bit deeper, whereas the kids are just having fun. So a great family game. Next up, the acrylic tiles. These feel premium. These little fairies feel absolute premium. I love that in a retail edition game. The only thing I would say is I wish this game went to 5 players. It would have been so much better at 5 because my family's 5. So this for a family game would have been perfect. And lastly, let's discuss the mushrooms, multiple different ways of scoring. This is great. Now, if you have young kids, you may need to help them with the mana scoring aspect. For the most part, it's pretty kid friendly, but there we go, 6 mushrooms. Let's go check them out now. The first 3 are simple. Magidrome, just collect the amount of points on the card. Lookout is a set collection. The more you collect, the more points you get. Spring, every time a fairy passes over without stopping on it, you're going to get ongoing points. The final 3 are all multipliers. Pollinarium is going to be a multiplier for the amount of mushrooms you have in your village. Academy will be a multiplier for the fairy's movement on that turn. And lastly, Luminarium, multiplier for the amount of visible fireflies in your village. Now the cons. 2 things mainly, player luck and player count. Well, we already discussed player count being the lack of 5 player, but there's also a lack of solo. I'm always on the lookout for a lightweight solo game. Next up, this game feels weaker at 2 players because you're always just trying to avoid landing on your opponent's mushroom village and obviously landing on your own. If you land on theirs, they get points and potentially you don't get any. This game is strongest at 3 and 4, but no surprise because it's a drafting game, always plays better at higher player counts. Next up, the player luck. Again, we discussed it earlier, which is a pro for the kids, but if you're a group of adults and you're playing it, maybe that luck factor is just too much, gets a bit frustrating. Look, that's a potential con, but as long as you know what the game is, then look, you're gonna have a fun time. Let's end off with some tips. And the first one, always play with objective cards, super simple and adds that little bit more to the game. Next up, the spring card. It seems the weakest of all the mushrooms. You're only gonna get like 1 or 2 points each time. But when you think about it, every time a fairy passes it, you're gonna get those ongoing points. So if you get a chance to play them early in the first round, always do that. They're great for ongoing points. Next up, don't dismiss that decision of placing your mushroom on the left or right of your mushroom village. Now, have a think about what is your opponent trying to achieve? Do they have a big stack of cards? Do they have a particular mushroom that they want to land on? So if you think about that and think about, look, if you put it on left or right, is that going to stuff up their game? Excellent, always do that. And then lastly, the big decision is, are you going to grow big and trying to go high risk, high reward for like a 4 stack of mushrooms? Or are you going to try and vary it out as much as you can just to get ongoing points? Look, at the end of the day, I can't tell you that decision, but when I play, I always like at least 1 4 stack. And that is Fairy Ring. Great little family game, great little beginner game. Go check it out.